The cold sunk right into the stones here.
This is why we use wattle and daub back home. Insulates properly. I'd always heard the Enclave liked to keep extensive records. It's a lawkeeper's dream. Let's see if we can find a registry of Maker's sigils. This looks like some kind of evacuation plan. Doing their research before enacting asylum, I'd wager. Tables with assets listed. Looks like a tabulation of supply levels. Too new to be from before the surge. According to these dates, they stayed in Dynevron for years afterwards. Just some birth records. Surprisingly detailed.
Invaluable. We'll have to make sure Lane adds them to our archive later.
Here we go. Sigils. Ah, found it. Our creator is listed here as Lucia de Crassus. 2 registered workshops, both council approved for dangerous materials. She must have had some pull before the surge. One is here in the city, and the other, let's see. I've been there. That frozen town out in Dredger's Mire. Better wear something warm.
I think it's important we run this one down, Bryn. The water clock is dripping.
Fire. A body, ahead. Outfit looks like our spying friends.
So, it's a uniform.
There's a note in his pouch. New drop. Market Loomgate, it says. But wait. Under his mask, he's scorched. Aurea, this looks like the wound on your wing. Only it's everywhere.
But there's no tangle.
Could he have been caught in the flood?
Seems likely. Proof we should take that warning seriously.
I think we should look into that drop his note mentioned.
Especially if it's near a loom gate.
I often heard that as you entered the perch, the bustle of Dynevron would begin to crescendo until it peaked in the market.
Weaver's Rest. Said to be a common place for weavers in Lowtown to gather.
The record said this place was registered to our enchantress of interest, Lucia. It sure doesn't look like a saboteur or smuggler's den. On the workings of Archons by L. de Crassus. Seems promising. Dom?
Certainly topical. Probably not enough to go on by itself, though. Still significant.
aerolith can influence the weather. Almost certainly why things are frozen over.
Malfunctioning, then.
Indisputably. The ice buildup must be causing a cyclical localized reaction.
Sure. I'll take care of it.
Good idea. Swampy environs and intense cold is bad even for Enclave parchment. Best to lower the risk.
There. Already warming up. Hope I didn't damage the priceless artifact too much.
Can't make an omelette, as they say.
A lot of notes here. Water damage from the cold and melt, though. Let's see. Materials. Huh. That's how you visualize a pattern. Lots of marginal notes. These have to be from Lucia. Ah, she mentions a flood in the later passages.
Sev and I will look at these together with her book then. See what we can learn in context. As Aurea says, the candle is burning on our flood problem.
Any luck with the materials we gathered from Lucia's workshops?
Yes. I'll let Sev fill you in.
We started with the book, which was painfully dry and...
Unsurprising. The Enclave was notoriously tight-lipped about the construction of the arcs.
The book was still useful, as it contained a number of craft-specific terms, shorthands and annotations. All critical. Referencing the book clarified the notes.
Without it, they bordered on deranged rant, especially at the end.
Sort of a window into her thinking.
We suspect Lucia spent a long time in isolation while working on these.
She covered many topics, but the most prominent was her work into the flood.
How do those devices I found with her mark on them tie into all of this?
In her final notes, her obsession shifted from the Enclave's leadership to the miasma flood. She was determined to find a way to stop it. On one hand, she looked to the aeroliths as a mitigation. Could they repel the miasma?
In the end, her answer was no. And so she turned to disruption. We think the arcs were tests. Could she shut them down?
And if so, could she shut down something larger?
She was clearly successful at least once. Maybe twice if we count the one outside the Veil.
Indeed, and when we're doing more general questions, that is what we must talk about.
Her workshop was a little brisk, even for my tastes. Any idea why?
She was fascinated with Enclave technology, specifically the dismantling, disruption, and repurposing of it.
She was experimenting with aeroliths, the massive enchanted stones that control the Enclave's weather. When the effect is accidentally concentrated, it can be quite intense. We suspect she was experimenting with the aerolith in relation to the floods. She predicted their start.
We know the Hearthsiders spent years working in Dynevron after the Surge. Why do we think Lucia ended up so far from the capital?
It's evident she disagreed with the leaders of the Enclave and gathered others around her who agreed. There's talk of several meetings taking place in the Maya, most likely to be away from prying eyes.
Called her group the Verdant Minds. Very planty.
I like it. It's poetic.
Who exactly was Lucia? It seems like she had a lot going on.
Brilliant, but disturbed. She harbored a severe hatred of Enclave leadership, bordering on obsession.
Reams of fiercely colorful text, just to say some very rude things, especially about the Eye, their leader.
She was also, at one point, one of the most respected enchanters in the Enclave. She worked on something she refused to name, but was clearly of deep significance to the Enclave itself. Called it the source of all our problems.
Sadly, she only danced around that subject, and never offered details.
All intriguing information. But we should focus on the flood. Does she have an answer for us?
Partially. This is the design.
Her research led her to one conclusion: to stop the floods. She needed to disrupt a barrier of some sort.
This confirms our theory from earlier. She's talking about the barrier established by Asylum.
Her design is detailed and specific. The device it would create inverts the flow of magic and enchanted objects, disrupting them for a time.
We think the devices we found on the Arks were prototypes, small experiments to determine efficacy and duration.
So what's the catch? If the floods are still happening, clearly she didn't build one.
Lucia's thimble, as she calls it, requires some highly specialized components. It has to withstand considerable magical flow, far more than what's produced by an Ark.
It's like how mass scales exponentially. Just because you can build a scale model of an aqueduct doesn't mean the real thing can support its own weight.
If, and it is a very big if, we could find those components, we could construct Lucia's thimble. We have the expertise.
We'll find them. It's just a matter of time.
I only hope we have enough.
The other thing we'll need is a source of magical flame. Solar's mantle won't be enough by itself.
I can handle that part easily. Okay, so we have clear next steps. Just one more thing. What?
The flood. Our best guess, at any rate. There's no sign of her.
Now that there's a flood of raw magic on our heels, shouldn't we be looking for a way out?
Sev, the ark is broken.